Hey, everybody, and welcome on here Thursday. And, are you ready for some baseball? That's right. Fox has a rare, frankly, I can't even remember the last time Fox had a baseball game televising nationally, other than obviously the playoffs or the World Series. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be the Rays and the Orioles starting a big four-game set in Baltimore. And obviously, at this point in time, we like baseball in September, pennant drive, starting to get a little cooler. Things are getting a little more exciting. And so the Rays, who are 2.5 games out in the American League East, take on the Baltimore Orioles, who, of course, are leading there. So this is a big week of baseball, especially a big weekend. And so, of course, it's going to be a weekend that's going to get a lot of attention starting tonight with Fox. Now, Fox has got them as their Major League Baseball game of the week. They moved the Saturday night slot to Thursday night. So tonight we get the Rays and the Orioles. Now, tomorrow night, they slide over and they're going to be on Apple TV. They're the Friday night game, the Rays and the Orioles. They also have a backup game in case it rains, which is kind of odd because, you know, it could also rain in St. Louis. You never know. Anyway, the Rays and the Orioles are 7 o'clock. Phillies and St. Louis are at 8 p.m. That's tomorrow. So you can watch both those games. Will be streaming on Apple TV on their Friday night package. So now we've got Fox and we've got Apple taking care of the Rays and the Orioles. But there's more. Saturday on the MLB network, the 7 o'clock game will be the Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Sunday game will be on MLB Network, and that will be on MLB Network at 1:30. Okay, so 1:30 Sunday. So all four games will be televised. Game tonight, obviously, on Fox. Game tomorrow on Apple. And the two games on the weekend will be on the MLB Network. All right, so there you go. Now, most of you were thinking, okay, it's Thursday night. Well, we got Thursday night football, and we do. We got the Vikings and Eagles. The Vikings are 0-1, Eagles 1-0, and the game begins at 8 o'clock, but 7 o'clock is the pregame show on Prime. You can stream it, and this is a big year for Amazon. Prime Video will get a Thursday night game on, on a regular basis. Excuse me just for a second. On a regular basis, obviously, the rest of the season. But they do have a couple of things coming up that are of importance. One is that the Thursday night game on Thanksgiving week, which traditionally does and will go, as it usually does, to NBC. This year, the NFL carved out a Black Friday game. So the Black Friday game will be televised in prime time on Prime Video and streamed on Prime Video. And that's going to be a game between the Dolphins and the Jets. I know Aaron Rodgers won't be there, and I think a lot of obviously, I think that was one of the reasons that game was picked, because the Dolphins are a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, presumably at that point in time, would have, it would have been a marquee match. It may still be a marquee match. We don't know, but it is a game which Amazon will be giving away free to anyone who wants to stream it worldwide on Black Friday. Okay, so we may have an entirely different Black Friday holiday situation where you have college games on the afternoon, and then on a Friday night you get to see an NFL game. There has not been a Friday night NFL game, and now there's one going to be every year. So that's kind of the league's way of giving Amazon some props for doing the the right thing by them, and also by losing. They lose two Thursday night games. The one, of course, is the opening night Thursday night game, and then of course the Thursday night from Thanksgiving. So it's a little bit of a payback for for that situation. Okay, so good from that standpoint. Now, what's coming with Amazon? Amazon has a strategy here. One of the things we saw, and they were averaging, depending upon whose Nielsen numbers you want to talk about, between 9.7 million and 11.5 million per household on their broadcasts. If they were linear television, they would have won those nights, Thursday nights. Now, people say, well, they were down from Fox. Well, yeah, that's true. Fox was over the air, and you've got to literally, take a situation where teaching people who may not have been a streamer to move over and do a streaming service does inherently take a learning curve. So the fact that they were able to ramp that up in year one of an 11-year deal, I thought was pretty impressive. Two numbers that should be watched, okay? Number one, from the ratings. For the first time in NFL history, the average age of the viewer went, and this is on the Thursday night game streamed on Amazon, went down to 47. Okay. That is an age that they haven't seen. It's usually been in the mid 50s, sometimes a low 50s, but now it's 47. So you got a lower demographic from a standpoint of the younger demographic on watching football on Prime. The 18 to 34, again, a record. Normally, that's incrementally, maybe 1 or 2%. You might get, a little bump there. 18% the first year. So what we're seeing in a trend, which is a good trend for the NFL, is that Amazon, with Prime Video's Thursday Night Football, is attracting a younger demographic, B, a demographic in the 18 to 34 male population that is going to grow. So that, I think, is two encouraging factors for Thursday Night Football. And they've experimented, meaning Amazon has experimented with AI and with the whole situation of maybe even including the goggles, so you have the immersive effect of feeling like you're quarterbacking one of the teams. That's all down the road, and Amazon is as we speak beta testing a bunch of this stuff. So it's going to be wild, and kudos to Prime Video for getting and really delving into the spending money in it and trying desperately to figure out what is the best deal and how that can be helpful. So we got two things on Thursday night tonight to watch. We have a football game, I'm sorry, on ESPN. It is Navy at Memphis. It's American Conference battle between those two games. Two teams. Navy at Memphis. Okay, that's a 7:00 start on ESPN. So if you really want to watch some college football, you got a chance to watch it. Memphis hosting the Naval Academy. Interesting, a couple of interesting notes. On tennis. Coco Gauff's U.S. Open victory drew a record viewership of 1 million more viewers than the men's finals. So there you go. People wanting to see Djokovic, I'm sure they enjoyed it, but the factor was that Coco Gauff's win on the women's side drew 1 million more viewers on ESPN. Now, remember a couple of things. One, the fact that, one is that Djokovic and the men's the men's draw was played on a Sunday, so the final was played on Sunday, which was up against the NFL. That might have hurt. I'm not going to take anything away from the women getting 1 million more viewers, but the competition was a little stiffer. Obviously, there's college football over there as well. Let's take also one other factor into this, which is an important one. If you lived in New York, or Los Angeles or Orlando, Tampa, Houston, a lot of those were Spectrum viewers. Okay. That was still in the midst of the Spectrum blackout. So the fact that Coco Gauff got that, many viewers and, defeated the men from a rating standpoint, good on them. It was a good situation from that standpoint. Speaking of women, let's take a quick look at the WNBA regular season drew its best viewership on ESPN in 17 years. They were up 18% from 2022. So, good year for not just the WNBA, but as we just showed you, Coco Gauff in the women's tennis, and also a really good year for women in general. They had record ratings in both the coverage of ESPN's Final Four of the women, and of course the the women's softball as well. So it was a good year for women in television, and it just goes to show you that there's plenty of good content out there if you're willing to go looking for it. And I think that's, at the end of the day, not a bad thing. And let's take a quick question. Hey, Jerry, I guess I'm 69. Well, actually, you do, Jerry. You do fit a demographic model, and that demographic model is traditionally the people who, that's a high spending audience. Okay, the commercials about Roth IRAs and all those other things like that, insurance companies and automobile companies and all that, target the 60 and up level because they realize these people are, have some discretionary income that they might be able to, just use it. So Jerry, you're not in a bad not in a bad demographic from that standpoint. We have a couple of other questions popping in here real quick. Let's take a quick look. What else is going on? All right. And that would be that. The announcing first week. Okay. I didn't really see any gaffes. I mean, I saw some very good announcing. Gus Johnson on the Colorado-Nebraska game was typical Gus. He was excited and very good at what he did. I thought the call from Joe Buck on Monday night game when the Jets took the game in overtime on a punt return and won it was pretty impressive. So yeah, I think announcing all across the board. Chris Fowler, of course, did 2 games this week. He did the last week. I'm sorry, he did the Florida Utah game, and he did the LSU game with Florida State the week before, and then of course he had Alabama and Texas this week. So Chris has been a little bit everywhere. Plus he did the tennis. So yeah, announcing wise, it was a pretty good week for most of the announcers. I didn't see anything that was a glaring situation. If you do, let me know. Greatly appreciate it. So let's see what else is going on. Well, let's see. We got some games. We got some games coming up tomorrow. And as we said, that's going to be the baseball tomorrow. The football. Okay, let's take a look at the football games. Saturday's football. Penn State, number 7, takes on Illinois. That's the noon game. South Carolina, Georgia, that's a 3:30 game on the SEC network. I'm sorry, the SEC on CBS, I should say. Alabama, USF, that's a 3:30 game on ABC, and Western Kentucky is at Ohio State, 4 p.m. on Fox. It's a pretty good set of games. Penn State and Illinois, that is a Big Ten kickoff game for them. South Carolina, Georgia, that's a SEC contest between 2 SEC teams. Their first game of the year from the standpoint of conference play. Alabama, USF, that is not a conference game. And as a USF grad, I'm just hoping that Alabama lost last week, so they're going to be mad, and that's not going to be a good situation. But let's hope that Alex Goff and Alex Gauch's last time Alex Gauch coached against Alabama, he won. Of course, he was he was the offensive coordinator for Tennessee, which was a big advantage. But let's hope that things go well for the Bulls. At least they keep it close against as they say, a very upset Alabama team. That's going to be on ABC. Western Kentucky to Ohio State. Ohio State haven't quite really figured out their quarterback problem yet. So while they are undefeated and they are, in a very interesting situation where Western Kentucky has to go and travel to the Horseshoe to play that game. Could it be a trap game? I don't know. Western Kentucky's a pretty good team, but then so is Ohio State. So we'll go with Ohio State at this point, but we'll see. Anyway, onward and upward. There are some games that are Peacock exclusive. I want to touch on those. Sam Hartman. Now, Sam Hartman is really doing things well at Notre Dame. Okay, he's stepped into that quarterback role, and Coach Freeman's got to be ecstatic about what he's doing with Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is at hosts Central Michigan. The Chippewas will be coming to South Bend. That's a 2:30 game exclusively on Peacock. You can stream it there. Followed by Michael Penix Jr. From Tampa Bay Tech, where he was a quarterback in high school. He's going to lead the number 8 Washington Huskies, who are 2-0, and they will take on Michigan State, and that is a hornet's nest and a total mess at Michigan State. We'll see how that works out. This year is Washington, Michigan State. It's a Pac-12 versus a Big Ten. Next year, when these two teams face each other, they'll be in the same conference. So those are your Peacock games for the week. Notre Dame against Central Michigan, 2:30, and Washington taking on Michigan State University. Let's take a quick look at the other key games on Saturday. Number 11, Tennessee is at the Swamp. That's a 7:00 kick on the SEC network. And also seen nationally on SEC on ESPN. Syracuse is at Purdue. That's a 7:30 start. That's Big Ten on NBC. So that's the NBC prime game. Pittsburgh at West Virginia. Okay, now that, my friends, is going to be the national game. And it is going to be the backyard brawl. Last year, if you remember, Pitt won the game late, and the game was played in forever. I will forever call them Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. So it was played at Pittsburgh. This year, it's going to be down in West Virginia. Knowing those two sides, that backyard brawl is one heck of a football game to watch. They really get after each other. So by all means, if you get a chance to watch it, you're a college football fan. Pitt and West Virginia backyard brawl. That's going to be the national game on ABC in primetime at 8:00. All right, so there you go. TCU at Houston. That's Fox's, primetime game, and our buddy Timmy Brando is going to be on the call of that game with Spencer Tillman. So TCU at Houston, and that game on Fox. That game in primetime. All right, so let's take a look at Colorado State, Colorado. That's it's a bit of a rivalry game, and that game will start at 10:00 on ESPN. It's the Pac-12 After Dark package. Now, the irony and somewhat craziness of what was going on is that both Game Day from ESPN and Fox's big Saturday pregame show, those are shows that start at noon, are going to be, both of them are going to be in Boulder, Colorado, on the campus of the number 18 University of Colorado Buffaloes, coached by, of course, Deion Sanders. The interesting part of this is not that they're on campus. It's that they're on campus at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for a football game that isn't going to start till 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I don't know what the I guess they're going to have students there. It'll be interesting from that standpoint. But that's a pretty interesting. It's only been a couple times that both the Big Ten pregame show and ESPN's game day has been at the same locations, and once it was with Ohio State, Michigan. So It doesn't happen often, and in this particular case, both networks are riding the prime train. And it's funny too because Colorado State seemingly always plays Colorado tough, and so um, if I don't think that the folks at Colorado are going to overlook Colorado State, but boy, Colorado State, if they only win one football game this year, that would probably be the one they want to win. So that's what's coming up. That's your late night game on ESPN Pac-12 After Dark. And as I said before, game day, and as well as Big Ten at noon telecast, which is their pregame show, is both of them are going to be in Colorado and seeing what's going on. So there you go. That's what's going on this weekend from that standpoint. I think we got through that. So let's take some more questions. All right. Here's what we got. Quick questions. Okay. We've got okay. Sean Saharba. I'm surprised that presumably smart people get fooled by expensive brand campaigns. He's wondering here now. He's talking about Deion Sanders. He said that we've only played 2 games, and how come this guy is getting so much publicity? Well, the key here is he's a personality. He's somebody who brings the casual fan. That's the key here, Sean, is that casual fans, people who probably wouldn't watch a Colorado football game, may not even watch a college football game, will watch to see what's going on with Deion. Deion is he is a phenomenon from a standpoint that he's a personality that's seemingly at times larger than life. He does have an incredible social media following, both on Instagram and on Twitter. He's hard not to pay attention to. He's a sincere and interesting fellow all at the same time. But now, when people say, "Well, he can't coach," well, guess what? He's coached them 2 wins so far. 2 wins is not a career make. There's no question about that. But the hype train, is something that Fox and ESPN had bought into, and they're bringing it to the fans. And if the fans didn't want to see it, they wouldn't watch it. But for the last 2 weeks, the 2 highest rated football games have included a Colorado team coached by Deion Sanders. So if people aren't going to watch it, they won't tune in. But clearly, they're tuning in. So we're getting the casual fan and the football fan at the same time. And that's not a bad thing. It grows the brand. It grows the interest. It certainly helps the University of Colorado. There's no question about that. So I get what you're saying, but, look, he's backing it up. And Blake jumps in, and he's defending Coach Prime, as we would hope Blake would do. Coach Prime didn't need over-the-top promotion. His attention to the casual fan is huge. His personality, social media has helped make him what he is today, and that is a star. But you can't take away from the fact that his team is playing well, and the coaches that he put together as his assistants are well schooled, and hopefully it's going to pay off big time, as I am a Colorado Buffalo fan. Well, let's hope so. Jeff Richard. Okay. He's talking about Pac-12 bylaws and Wednesday's court case. Jeff, I'm going to do what I did yesterday on this. Heather Dinich at ESPN, our buddy Dennis Dodd. I mean, there are 3 or 4 good writers who have delved into this this lawsuit between the Pac-12 and Oregon State and Washington State. I highly recommend that you just either hit up Dennis on Twitter. I mean, he's on Twitter, and so is Heather. I'm sure if you go down their thread, you're going to find the story, and I think that's what you got to do. I can't sit here and explain it to you guys because it's a pretty complex thing, and it really needs far more um, detail than I'm able to sit here and give you. So rather than me speculate to what is going on, I highly recommend you go check out Dennis or Heather or frankly any newspaper in Washington or Oregon. They're going to have heavy duty coverage of that, and it'll make it easier for you to figure it out. Um, so if you leave that, Jeff, I could greatly appreciate it because I am not prepared to get into the details of that of a lawsuit between those two schools and the Pac-12. All I know is that they, meaning OSU and WSU, want to know where they stand. And that's a fair. That's something that's fair. We'll see how that goes. All right. Top games of the week for Nick. What do you got, Nick? He likes Penn State and Illinois. That's what he's going to be watching. He likes South Carolina at Georgia and Alabama at USF. Okay, well, I like those games too, so I'm glad that you like it. They're with the exception, as I said before, of the Alabama game. Those are first conference games, and Georgia South Carolina is intriguing because South Carolina has a pretty talented team this year. Now, of course, Georgia's number one, and I don't think that Georgia is ever going to overlook somebody, but South Carolina, and Georgia should be a good game. Penn State, Illinois, I don't know. I don't think Illinois is all that good, but I do think Penn State is very good. So we'll see how that works out. That game's on Fox, and South Carolina and Georgia, as I said a little earlier, is this is the last year that the SEC is on CBS. So everybody's kind of used to seeing the SEC on CBS. So certainly in that 3:30 spot. So enjoyed this one, folks. There's only a few more left on that one. Alabama at USF. That's the ESPN game, and also ABC. And Bob Wischusen and RG3, Robert Griffin III, are on the call of that game. We'll get into more of that tomorrow whenever we go over a little more in detail what's going on with the college games. So there you go from that. Let's see if we have a few more questions. Okay. You're asking about Comcast's debt. They get it paid off, guys. Again, that's in that lawsuit. Highly recommend you go read what's going to happen there. I have no idea how that's going to be settled, although I do believe it will be settled before the end of the year, maybe even sooner. That's why they went to court. All right. JT, the Sports Master, his games of the week. Okay, I get that. That's an interesting one. He wants to see Colorado State because he thinks that Colorado State can win that game. So could absolutely 100% be, JT. And we'll see what's going on there. And I think college, in their haste to leave their conference, is not reading the legally binding bylaws close enough. Okay, another bylaws question. Look, guys, I'm not an attorney. Check that part out and see. But again, it's an ongoing legal question, and one that is not going to be resolved by me or anyone else anytime soon. Let it process through the courts, and we'll talk about the verdict when the verdict comes. The Big 12 Mafia says hello. Good morning, Big 12 Mafia. Good to have you in the house. And okay, yeah. Here's let me give speaking of the Big 12 Mafia, let me give them a shout out because tonight at 8:30 they're going to present their midweek news of the day, and they'll talk about the Pac-12 lawsuit. They're also going to talk about Clemson and Alabama, where the dynasties are they falling. So join those guys. They're really good. Big 12 Mafia on YouTube here tonight, and they do a really fun job of presenting what's going on in college sports. I highly recommend that, and the Holy Wars, which they also have. So check those two out tonight, 8:30. It's simulcast on Twitter and on Twitch. So by all means, check those guys out there. They're good friends, and they've been good to us as well. So greatly appreciate it. Scroll down here. One more quick question. Did you? So many of these are having to do with. And Immaculate says that he's talking about possibility of later down the year. I'm sorry, later in the years, 2030, that we may see a wonderful opportunity to have an ACC where Stanford, Cal, and lead the way to pretty much an all academic conference, and not and let Clemson and Florida State and any other school that just wants to play football and not be educated. It's a little harsh. Be in the conference. Well, we'll see. It's a long way between now and 2030, my friend. We'll see how it plays out. And that's you guys. Everything you're talking about here has to do with the Pac-12 and that lawsuit. And again, I'm not going to get into it. So let's just say that. One more from Chris. And that is, do you think that Peacock, no, there we go. Do you think that Peacock does a good job on their broadcast? Yeah, they do. I mean, it's NBC. I mean, you're watching an NBC telecast. It's just that it's streaming on Peacock. So yeah, these guys do a good job. And there's no reason to believe they won't continue to do a good job. They've been doing it for a long time. As a matter of fact, NBC has been in the sports business longer than any other television network. So there you go. And they've done it well. So, boys and girls, let's see if we got any more last questions before we get out of here on a Thursday. Well, it looks as if we have answered all of your questions. So there you go. Well, thank you for joining us. And we had a lot of fun. And we'll have a little bit more later today at 2 o'clock on the 2 o'clock show. And we'll go over some of that. And maybe we'll give you some headlines or little cliff notes on what's going on with the Pac-12, just to guide you in the direction so you can get the information that you need. Okay, so not promising everything about it, just enough to get your to answer a few of those questions that you guys brought up. Okay, all right. Have a lovely morning, and for those of you who aren't going to be able to come back at 2 o'clock, that's cool. It's always on demand. You can see it on the channel. So very simple to do. All right. Have a lovely day, guys. See you at 2, or see you tomorrow.